Do you remember that time the U.S. government used gymnastics, combined it with karate to stop the evil commies, and put a space station listening post in a made-up country? I do, and it was called Gymkata. Welcome to another bad movie review. Obviously, today we are talking about Gymkata, the 1985 classic action film rated R, running around 90 minutes of pure adrenaline. Yeah. So, there are times in life when you're like, how did this get made? This is one of those times. I know you're going to hear that a lot with these movie reviews, but man, I don't know, gymnastics and karate, I could see kind of some overlap, but talk about shoehorned. All right, let's get into it. Parmistan, a small mountain country in the Hindu Kush range, mountain range that is apparently it's a great spot for a satellite listening post for the Star Wars defense system that never got made. To get this, to acquire this, someone has to compete in the game. And that's where Jonathan Cabot comes in. World-class gymnast, mullet master, an all-around nice dude. Well, he must enter a deadly game that no outsider has won in over 900 years. That's right, 900 years. Not an exaggeration, according to this. And using only his gymnastic skills and his martial arts mastery, will Jonathan survive with his sweet 80s mullet intact? Where to begin with this? Now that we have the plot, let's move on to acting. It was awful. Let's be honest. There were a few standouts. Richard Norton, who plays Vamir, I think his name is pronounced. He did okay. He's standard B-movie villain. He did okay. Not overly upset with him. Overall, the best actor in this entire movie is the woman that doesn't speak much. Yes, they had to get a saucy Asian to tempt me into watching this film, because otherwise they knew that the Snaggletooth locals probably weren't up to snuff. I mean, come on. They probably don't even have toothpaste and made up a stand. But she was cute. Not any boobs, though. I was very disappointed by that. There was a distinct lack of boobies, which really ups the game a lot when you're having a movie like this. But that's okay. Let's see. The actress's name is Tetchie. I'm gonna butcher this one. Wow. Tetchie Agbayani. I apologize to her because she was the best person in this entire film. And apparently she may be a college professor in the Philippines. She's Filipino. But definitely the best person in this movie, because this movie, the bar is pretty low. But good eye candy. The few words she does speak are pretty good, but she has a very expressive face. So that kind of played up. Otherwise, the only other standout was Bob Schott. He directed the 1997 Adventures Beyond Chupacabra documentary, which I also own, shockingly enough. And is actually, well, it's kind of terrible, but the directing was good in that. I'll give him that. And he also starred in, I believe he played Otis in Head of the Family, which is another B-movie I will probably review in the future. But he's been in a lot of other B stuff, some of which I've seen, some I hadn't heard of, but are now on my list. He actually did an okay job. Everybody else was kind of terrible, like TV bad. If you're too bad for 80s TV, you know you have an acting problem. So that covers the acting. Let's get into the technical, because I don't want to spend all day on this, and you're probably sick of hearing me already. Sound effects were goofy. Every time somebody hit something, it had that whooshing, thumping sound every single time. It's so canned and over the top. It was just predictable. The sets were good. It was filmed in Yugoslavia, so it was very authentic looking. And they probably got some locals in there to play like the cannibal villagers or whatever. So yeah, that was fine. I actually think the extras did better than the main cast in some regards. It is a very fast-paced movie. The editing was really well done so that you don't get bored. It's just go, go, go. Action, action, action. And I like that. Because with a movie like this, that the plot is so thinly veiled to be anorexic and transparent, that you kind of need to have a lot of action, and there is a lot of action in this movie. And the pacing is really well done. It's just that everything about the movie is crap. So, I can't blame the editor. They did their job. I can blame everybody else, though. Some of the gymnastic sequences were really shoehorned in. And the fight scenes were kind of awful. Not as bad as some other 80s movies, but they definitely had that Chuck Norris level of fighting style, where, one kick sends somebody reeling across the room. But they weren't as well done because Kurt Thompson is a gymnast by trade. He's a champion gymnast. And he's not a martial artist, and it kind of shows because the way you move is different. I don't want to get into a bunch of technical aspects because nobody cares, and that's a nerd argument that I don't want to have. But the form and the technique is different, and clearly he didn't have enough practice with the martial arts, so they were trying to shoehorn in the gymnastics, and it's so forced. It is so incredibly cheesy. So that was really kind of a killer for some of the scenes, but like when he jumps up on this bar and swivels around and predictably kicks people in the face, and weirdly he has hand powder from somewhere, but it was obviously forced in there because why would that bar even be there otherwise? It made no sense, but they did that a few times, and it was because I guess they had to work in the gymnastics aspect of Gymkata. So there's that. Let's see. The hero himself is too easily persuaded to go on this mission or whatever. He's not really a covert agent or anything. He's a gymnast. He's a gymnast in real life. He's a gymnast in this movie. So why is he going on a secret mission for the government? That seems like a weird and probably a poorly conceived idea, because you're sending in somebody that doesn't have any operational training and minimal basic martial arts fighting skills. Like, they trained him for like a week, and then they're like, all right, go kill some bad guys. I don't know. He does do a little bit of that moralistic, navel-gazy, whiny stuff that you see in the 80s. Like, oh, we gotta save the innocent guy. No, get in there and get the job done. You're supposed to be working for the government. You're supposed to be like this hardened guy who's gonna win this game. Yeah, nope. He's kind of a pansy. And there is like that underlying rah-rah America jingoistic flag waving, but it's not as pronounced as a lot of other movies like Invasion USA or Delta Force from around the same time. And honestly, this movie probably needed more of that, because otherwise the plot's a little thin. And by a little thin, I mean really thin. I'm going to keep beating that point home, sorry. Let's see what else. I'm reading my notes here, I'm sorry. I know I do that a lot. Jonathan, of course, seduces the hot Asian girl because love. It's in every movie, apparently, for some reason. I don't know why they shoehorn in romance scenes in movies that are supposed to be like action scenes. I guess they think they're going to draw in women with that, but really, if a woman's at an action movie, she's probably there to see some action and not a bunch of like, oh, I'm suddenly in love. It's so forced. There is like these neat spy gadgets that are never then used. They're shown, never really used. This is kind of a great example of a Cold War action film, because, you know, you have like the America guy put in this vaguely seemingly communist type country, but it's not as patronizing as like a lot of the Chuck Norris movies at the time, where it was just blatant beating commies and stuff like that. And it didn't have like a lot of the moral superiority of movies like Born American. It's just an underlying current because it did come out in the 80s at a time when that sort of theme was extremely prevalent. So if you're familiar with 80s movies, you kind of pick up on what is going on, the underlying put a white American in a situation and he comes out on top. It's the Edgar Rice Burroughs effect. Read anything by Edgar Rice Burroughs, drop a white dude in the middle of it, comes out on top. Carson of Venus, John Carter, Tarzan, of course. Yeah, white dude conquers everybody. It's that kind of thing. And it bothers me a little bit, but it was 30 years ago, so what do I know? And the basic premise of this movie was kind of like 5 minutes of plot build up and then a bunch of action scenes. So it was like, fuck plot, we're going in, we're going deep here, and just as beating up commies. And it turns out this movie is based on a book by Dan Tyler Moore called The Terrible Game, in which a spy has to enter a game. And they just added gymnastics and some karate elements in, apparently. Now, the book is very hard to find, and it seems to be more of a Cold War spy movie than this actually is. So it was very loosely based on this movie, or this movie was really loosely based on the book. Wow, I'm sorry, I can't talk. But if you get a chance, I'd recommend the book. But this was good, silly fun. If you're looking for a serious movie, forget it. It's a great popcorn action flick, real B-movie stuff. High quality cheese all the way. So if you want a cheesy action flick from the 80s especially, Gymkata's your prize there. Not as much the jingoistic flag waving as like Invasion USA or pretty much any other Chuck Norris film from that time period, but definitely worth a watch. It's good stuff, and yeah, that's really about all I got. So we're gonna wrap it up there. In the meantime, be sure and come back and check out some of the other reviews, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.